We're going to move immediately into our segment of age reversing health, and that brings my knowledgeable colleague of 38 years in health coach, Judy Friesen, to the mic. And we're going to welcome her in a few minutes. But right now, we have a word from LifeWave, and then we'll get into age reversing health.
Imagine having no pain, sleeping through the night, having more energy, and reversing the aging process. Now imagine LifeWave doing that all naturally, without the use of harmful drugs. X39 is the most advanced patented light therapy in the world. LightWave is a simple wearable patch that you place on your body that stimulates the body to regenerate and heal itself. With more than 20 years of research and over 100 patents, LifeWave specializes in age-reversing all-natural health. Find out what the power of the patch can do for you. For more information or to join our LifeWave community, go to thingsthatmatter.ca/LifeWave. LifeWave, reversing the aging process naturally without the use of harmful drugs. Welcome to Age Reversing Health, where we discuss ways to help you go far beyond just surviving this life, with practical and proven solutions to literally turning the clock back on aging so you can live your best life. Live younger for longer. Now, here's your hosts, Carl Krebs and Judy Friesen.
Welcome back. My name is Carl Krebs. I'm the host of Things That Matter. And in our second segment tonight, we're going to deal with age-reversing health. And that brings to the mic my good friend, my colleague, an expert in the health industry, Judy Friesen, 38-year health coach and consultant. Judy, welcome to the show.
Hey, Carl. Good to be with you again tonight.
Wonderful. You know, we're going to take a different tack line tonight as we talk about, and this comes up a lot, we talk about the why question. And essentially, I think it's incumbent, I think it's very therapeutic, it's very good for all of us to question, why do we do what we do? And we're going to explore that tonight because I think some people, it might be very, is cathartic the word? Would that be the word to use here? As far as going introspective. And we want to tackle this because in an earlier conversation, we talk about the why factor. Why do we do what we do? And there's a saying that goes, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Which is to say that we are only ever really going to be able to do business or have good relationships with people that are synchronistic in some ways to ourselves, that share our same values. So the question then becomes, why do we do what we do? Just a few comments on that, Judy, and then we have a video I'd like you to share with our group to set the stage for this conversation.
Yeah, Carl, you know, it's so right that people in our world are looking for value. They're looking for connection. They need to know how much we love them and care for them. And it's not just lip service. There has to be something tangible out there that there's a reason for why we care about people. Otherwise, it just looks like we're just, using people. And so there's a lot to explore here tonight, especially on this U.S. Thanksgiving Day, thinking about how much we're grateful for, whether we're Canadian or Americans. We really want to stop and pause and ask ourselves, why are we on this planet? That's what I have thought about a lot lately with a number of friends who are either sick or who have passed away. Like, what am I here for? And I don't know how much time I have, and I want to make my time count.
Thank you for saying that. Just before we went on air, we had a very short conversation. A dear friend of ours is on life support right now, and I just spent time with him down in Seminole, Texas, and I can't believe what's happening. We're reminded that time is short, that the eternal questions of men still remain today. Why am I here? Where did I come from? And where am I going? And I think the why question is by far the most significant question we can ask ourselves. Often people ask that question when calamity strikes, when disaster comes, when we feel like we're suffering, and we turn to God and say, why? Why is this happening to me? But before we get to that stage in our life, I think it's important to ask, why do you do what you do? And I think there's a man here, his name is Simon Sinek. I've read 2 of his books, and I've read one of them twice. And he says, start with the question, why? Judy, do you have that video that you're ready to share with us?
You know, Carl, all I got was just your recording of inviting guests to come and explore the concept of why.
All right. So that video isn't going to happen tonight. But let me talk to our audience frankly about this. Simon Sinek is a well-known speaker. His first book was Start With Why. That's the question. And we need to start with that. And he gives several examples in his book. And at the time when the book came out in around 2009, he was talking about the Apple Corporation. And he talks about it in the way that says, why is Apple, who has essentially the same advantages, the same opportunity available to other companies as is available to Apple, but why do they lead in the industry that they lead in such a way? Why do their products dominate the way they do? And in a way, he uses Apple because people identify with Apple. They know the company, so the analogy works. But he uses an analogy in the video, and he says, he basically turns the thing into saying, we make great computers. They look good. They function good. You want to buy one? If you think about that, how unenthusiastic is that? How uninspiring is that? But if we turn that around and say, we believe that by developing our products, we're going to change the lives of people by enabling them to have the technology that is available to larger corporations and entities. We make good-looking computers, and we sell them at a price you can afford. You want to buy one? Your response is totally different. And I read the book, the biography of Steve Jobs. If you don't know why they started that company, I'm going to tell you this. Maybe it's the first time you're hearing it. Their why was this. We want to level the playing field between Big Blue, which was IBM at the time, that dominated the computer industry. They believed that they could put a computer in every household across America. Guess what? Mission accomplished a long time ago. Their why was so powerful that it propelled them into the market to then discover how could they do this. So they learned their why, they discovered their how, and the what became obvious. Judy, you work with people far more than I do. You're looking at people that are maybe in a position in life that they would really like to change. We often ask the question, if you could change one thing in the health of your own or the health of a loved one, what would it be? What difference would it make? It's so important to ask that why question. How does it, I want to ask you then, let me get personal here, because I think we're going to return the favor to each other here tonight. Why do you do what you do, Judy? You coach people, you help people, you consult people. There are paid clients that you have, but I see your activity in many other areas and you don't get paid. Can I ask you, what's your why?
You know, Carl, that is something that I've thought about more and more as I get older. And now that I'm in the last half of my life, that question has to get refined all the time for me, because every day that I wake up, I can fill my day with all kinds of stuff. And so I've asked God, what is it that you've got me on this earth to do? And that's my why, is to share his love in a practical way. And for me, it's the way he's wired me to use my brain in the whole medical technical field of health and holistic medicine, and to use what he's given me, which is a desire to learn and to research and to help people go down a path of health and wellness that's going to bring them more joy so they have more time with their children, their grandchildren. They can fulfill their dreams of whether they want to go to Haiti and help out the homeless, or whether they want to run a business and make lots of money and be able to give lots away. My why is that God has wired me to give help and hope and real guidance, real scientific guidance to people so that they can follow a pathway toward their own goals, whatever it is that their why is. So my why is very connected to sharing love. It's not about the money. It's not about the prestige or the title. It's about being a reflection of who God is, which is his love. I want to be able to show his love to other people. And I came up with that after I almost lost my life. And I know what it's like to be on the brink of not wanting to live on this earth and being able just to throw the towel in. And when I came out of that very deep and dark time, I had to ask myself again, why am I still living? What am I to do? I don't want to spin my tires. And I have come to a very crystallized point of view, which is I am here to show love and to serve my fellow man, whoever God puts in my path that day. That's my assignment from God. That's my why, is to bring love and hope and healing to a hurting world.
Wonderful. I think it's so important to stop and ponder the big question. This is a big question. And for those of you that are watching tonight, maybe you're at that point in your life where you're wondering, why am I doing this? Why do I get up every morning and go to that job which takes up so much of my time? I'm trading hours for dollars. I'm barely getting by. The world isn't being necessarily impacted by what I'm doing. Now, don't get me wrong. Every one of us is significant. And I'm going to turn my sights back to a few years ago when we went through the crisis of COVID, the COVID crisis as it was. Do you remember when they said you are an essential service? It made everybody else under the label of unessential, as in not needed. And I thought about that so many times. I says, how did we allow ourselves to put that label on people? Everyone is essential. Everyone from the person who delivers flyers to your house to tell you what the sales are, to the guy that pumps your gas when you don't want to pump it, to the clerk at the grocery store that kindly processes you. Well, Lord knows we're getting away from that. If you go to Walmart, it's all self-serve. But I look at every job. Every person has the opportunity to be essential. And that, I think, gives life meaning. I think when we wake up and we feel we can make a difference in someone's life, and when we go to bed at night saying, I'm glad I did what I did. I think it's so important to know your why, because your why is going to determine your how. How are you going to achieve your why? And then what will you do? Because this is a saying that's true. Everybody knows what they do in this world. I mean, just take a look at your day. You know what you do. The question is, why do you do it? Can you speak to that for a minute? Because you're in that industry, you're dealing with people, and as I said, this is often a thankless industry in some ways, but it can be also very beneficial. There can be great remuneration in helping people.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like when you get into that laneway where you are on the path that you're meant to be, you're not looking to the left or to the right saying, well, how come I'm not doing this or what that guy's doing or what that lady's doing? But if you're on your lane, then you are in that sweet spot of where you're getting joy so much from what you do because you figured out your why. Why am I on this earth? And once you figured out your why, you get so much joy that the how and the what just falls in place. And any extra benefits that you might get, whether it is title, prestige, or income, it is like such a blessing because I would have done it without any money. Well, I would do what I'm doing without one penny, Carl. So let me turn the tables. I've shared a little bit about my why, I feel like my mission statement is to be on this earth to show God's love in a way that helps people with their holistic health goals. Why is it, Carl, that you do what you do? What is your why, may I ask?
Well, that's a good question, and I was prepared for that because, I asked you, I expect you to ask me back. I don't want to be in the clouds about this. I don't want to say lofty things like, I want to leave the world in a better place than I found it. That doesn't have a tangibility about it. I want to look down at ground level, not the 30,000 foot view, because we see the world, and the world is growing increasingly dark. And so a few years ago, I found myself in a very unlikely place. I found myself in front of a mic, very much like this one, but not doing anything like we're doing right now. And I felt that something needed to be said about the things that were going on and the things that matter. I wasn't out there to promote my brand of Carl Krebs, which is why I detested putting anything of my name into what I was doing. I was here to talk about the things that matter. And what are those things? Those are the critical things that when we finally get down to them, and you look at your life, I look at my life, and I said, what does really matter? What really matters here and what doesn't? Because there is so much significance. And so I'm going to start with the distraction factor. There's so much that can distract us from doing what we ultimately want to do. So I'm coming back to your story for a moment. And there's a saying that our greatest passions are realized out of our deepest hurts. So if we just modify the language a bit, you said you were on the brink of losing your health. That was a springboard. That was a catalyst for you to say, I'm going to dig in here. I need to know what's going on in my health. I can't rely on necessarily someone else doing for me what I need to know is good for me. So back to me. I want to contribute in a meaningful way to the health and wellness of people, which is why I find myself in this peculiar spot talking about health products, something of which I didn't pay much attention to in the years that went by. But when we are awake, when our eyes are open, they can't close. When we hear truth, we can't unhear it. And when we see things that we know are wrong, and we have the ability to speak to them, to get involved with them, to encourage other people to take a stand, that to me makes my heart get even bigger. And so my why is to be here to help other people discover what I've discovered, that life has tremendous value. That when people tell you, oh, well, if you just don't like who you are, just take yourself out of the game. What a hopeless place that is. What a dark world that is to live in. I've said it before, and I was just in studio today, and I'm putting together some promo videos to extrapolate that why factor. Judy, we need to be salt, and we need to be light in this world, my dear. What does light do? Light, in broad daylight, light a single candle. What is that? Very little significance. You wouldn't hardly notice that the candle is on. But when all the lights go out, when it's pitch black, that light shines its brightest. And in this world, as we encounter dark forces that seek to change our way of life, that seek to take us down paths we don't want to go, keep us longer than we ever wanted to stay, and cause us to pay more than we ever thought we pay. You know what that is, Judy? That's a definition of sin. Sin is losing your plumb line in life. So, salt. What does salt do? It preserves. What do we need to preserve? We need to preserve values that have passed down from generation to generation. They're cross-cultural. They're cross-denominational. They're cross-cultural. They're values that come from our Creator. I want to know as much as I can to be salt and light in this world. And that's my why, Judy. That's why I'm aligned with this company called LifeWave. It's why I'm doing things that matter in the hope that we can attract some people. And if we can just offer hope, well, wouldn't that be something?
You're right on, Carl. Offering hope, not not pie in the sky stuff, but real hope. And that's what I think is my lifelong goal, is to see people who would normally just give up, whether it's give up in the sense of maybe not monitoring their weight, or whether it's give up on life. We want to offer that kind of hope, and finding a home, finding a place for me in this age reversing health area of regenerative medicine has only added more fuel to my fire in why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I now can see that this is not just a word, this is not just Star Trek. This is actually coming true in my lifetime, Carl, that we can actually offer real hope to people. Because guess what? It's hard to get excited. I'm thinking about our listeners now, Carl, and they're thinking, yeah, but you don't know my situation. You don't know how hard I'm having it. You don't know what's going on in my life. But when you give people the physical stamina, the health that they need, then all of a sudden it affects the brain, and then they can start to think the right thoughts and put one foot in front of the other and find out more and more resilience. So if we can help people on the physical level, which is what I do day in, day out, I'm coaching people on what can you do to feed the body in a way that it can perform well for you. Then you can actually think these thoughts about wanting to make a difference in the world, whatever it might be that God's called you to do. But you have to have that foundation, which is you have to have your body healthy. If you're feeling a pain, you're not going to be thinking a whole lot about your why. So we really want to bring that kind of opportunity to people to get out of debt, to have a meaningful work, to get out of pain, to see their lives not only just coast, but to actually reverse the age. In other words, heal the body so that you can go back 10, 15, 20 years in your age just because you dealt with your physical ailments. I think that a lot of us need to really take a really hard look at how do we make sure that our physical health is solid, because I can control my physical health. I can't control the world around me. I can't control who becomes president. I can't control what kind of toxins they put into my apple. But I can control what I can do for me to make sure I detoxify and stay healthy. I'm really passionate about being able to work with the kind of company that you and I work with, LifeWave, that offers a real solution to aging.
So the saying, as we all know, your health is your greatest wealth. You know what? It's never been more true than now, as we hear and see, like our friend who just now went in life support. You know, he didn't wake up this morning thinking, I'm going to be on life support at the end of this day. I'm going to be fighting for my life. Time is precious. You know, 3 things never return: a word spoken, a spent arrow, and time. And when we realize that time is the greatest revealer, it's not a healer, it's a revealer as we give time to the situation. So when you're asking a why question, a powerful why question, and you don't get an answer, don't give up on that answer. That answer can come to you in time. Time is a revealer. It's not a healer. It reveals our own significance. It reveals what opportunities are there for me in this world besides what I do on a mundane basis.
Yeah.
I don't want to trade hours for dollars the rest of my life. And I don't want to necessarily drive a truck the rest of my life. I want to be impactful wherever we go. You know, this is so funny. I got to share it. At this restaurant I was at in Seminole, Texas, a wonderful couple, Jackie and her mother, Helena Thiessen, run this place called the Grub Shack. And when I pulled up there, I saw this very odd thing happening. A sunflower was growing out of the concrete. And we all were amazed at it. We looked at it and we said, well, that's so peculiar. And then it came to me, because my mind tends to go that way. I said, what did it take for that seed to fight its way out of the crevices of cement? What's down there that could possibly help that flower to grow? It was like 3 feet tall. So I looked at that and I looked at the struggle for life and significance. And here it is, a sunflower growing in the middle of a parking lot. And then it came to me again. Bloom where you're planted. Wherever you are, wherever God has placed you, wherever you find yourself, take a look. Take inventory of who you are. Take inventory of your abilities. Don't let someone else determine your value. Don't let someone else say, you're going to have to do this the rest of your life. No. Again, why am I doing this? Why am I involved with health? This is the two most unlikely things I ever thought I would be in. But COVID took me to a point where I said, there's something more out here that I can do. I think COVID was such a game changer for so many people. Would you agree with that?
Right, you are, absolutely. Yeah, it's really taking stock of the world around you and do some course corrections. If you're on a path that's not giving you joy, if you're on a path that you're not finding your real wake up in the morning, I want to get to it kind of a feeling, then stop. Ask yourself some questions. Look for that why and make that course correction and get on a new path if you're not feeling good about the path you're on. Every one of us have a deep sense of knowing, Carl. It's natural. It's built into the human condition that we know when things aren't right. And we know when things are right. Not about your situation, not about your circumstances. Circumstances can be really bad no matter whether you're in your why or not. But it is so important to stop and ask the question. Ask people around you. Search for the answers. And I really believe that we will be given that word where we can know that we're making a difference. As you said, salt and light. Those are two very powerful words in the Bible that talk about that's God knew that we would get depressed. We will be lost if we're not being salt and light. He's the greatest psychologist ever known. And he knew that if we lose sight of being able to be salty and showing light in darkness, then we'll get depressed and we'll lose our way. So I really love this topic, and I think that if we should ask more people around us, how can I be someone that could help you find your why? How can I help you just to even bounce off of me? What are you thinking? What are you wanting to change? And how can I help you to get there?
So great challenge, and we got a couple minutes left here. We want to help people. That's why we do this. We do this Age Reversing Health show every week because we truly do want to help people. So tangentially, as we're talking about age reversing health and the need for health and how important our health is and discovering our why, what is a challenge you want to issue to our audience that's listening and the many more that will listen afterward? Because they can get a hold of us at the bottom of the screen. You're seeing info@thingsthatmatter.ca. Issue a bit of a challenge to our audience, Judy.
We don't want to just be talking heads here. We want to help to create action in our listeners. And so one of my challenges is if you're trying to figure out your why and you want to just talk with one of us, email us and tell us what is your why. We'd love to hear all across this country, this land, what are other people's whys? That's very stimulating and rewarding and exciting to hear other people's whys. But I really think that one of the best ways to really figure out if you're on the right track is write it down. When you write down, just get a little notebook and write down a date and a time and say, I think this is my why, or I'm not sure of my why, but here's what I'm thinking. When you see it in print on paper, that can help to really formulate and crystallize a lot of what you need to do to maybe hone that in a little bit or to add a little bit more detail or to put it into the right path as I was talking about earlier. So write it down and then share it with Carl and I. I would love to see what some of our audience members are thinking, as our listeners are thinking about what their why is on Earth.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our show here, Judy. Once again, thank you for sharing your heart. Knowledge is only as good as the heart is engaged with that knowledge. And I want to say to our audience, we sincerely mean what we say. contact us, info@thingsthatmatter.ca. Judy and I are going to respond to acknowledge your inquiry, but we're not going to necessarily tell you what to do. That would be reckless and careless. What we want to do is point you to a tool. We have that popular saying, we're always pointing to tools that will help people to do for them what they want to do for them, because we know we cannot do for others what they don't want to do for themselves. We can't want it more than the person themselves. So Judy, once again, thank you for being with us here and sharing your heart and your knowledge. And of course, you're going to be back next week.
Right. Thanks so much, Carl. Good to be with you. Good night.
All right. Great. Well, that concludes our second segment of Things That Matter, Age Reversing Health with Judy Friesen.